All right, today we are diving into a novel called The Last Metaphor. And let me tell you, it's built on one of the most mind-bending premises I have ever come across. It all kicks off with one simple question, a question that pretty much unravels the entire fabric of reality as we know it.
And I mean, really think about that. Forget figures of speech. Imagine every single idiom, every simile. Anytime you say something is like something else, what if it just happened? Literally. What would that world even look like? Well, according to this story, it would start with absolute chaos.
So picture this. The first reported incident is in Rotterdam. A guy in therapy, he's just trying to describe how stressed he is. He uses that classic phrase, and boom. Suddenly, gravity itself just warps around him, crushing him under this invisible, unbearable weight. The words themselves did it.
And it doesn't stop there. Over in Bologna, Italy, a literature professor is getting really passionate about his subject. He describes a poem as having a burning intensity. And in that exact instant, the whole lecture hall just bursts into flames. Figurative language isn't just descriptive anymore, it's become physically, dangerously real.
And the speed at which this thing spreads is terrifying. We go from just a handful of bizarre events to hundreds and then thousands. Within a single month, this literalization effect is a full-blown global crisis. You can imagine, people become afraid to even speak, stripping their language down to the bare bones, terrified of using any color or creativity.
So, this brings us to the new reality everyone has to deal with. A world where you have to weigh every single word, because it turns out the universe is listening, and it's taking us, well, literally.
Right in the middle of all this chaos, we meet our protagonist, Esen Yıldız. And who do you call when language itself is broken? A poet, of course. She spent her whole life arguing that the figurative, the imprecise, can actually be more truthful than hard facts. This makes her kind of the only person on Earth qualified to figure out what is going on.
This right here is Esen's whole philosophy. For her, demanding that everything be literal, that's a kind of violence. It flattens the beautiful, messy complexity of being human. But the figurative, the metaphorical, that's not a lie. No, that's how you get at truths from angles that direct language just can't reach.
And here's the crucial point she makes. That little space between a word and the thing it represents, Aaron says that's not just for making pretty poems. That gap is where we make moral sense of the world. It's where ethics are born. And now, that space is collapsing.
So, how in the world do you explain a reality where poetry can literally kill you? Well, scientists are scrambling, and one physicist, he discovers something extraordinary.
He calls it the logos field. Get this, it's a fundamental field of the universe, just like gravity or electromagnetism, that has always connected our language to physical reality. It's the reason a powerful speech can give you chills, or a poem can feel so real. It's the physics of meaning.
Okay, so here's how the theory works, basically. 1. Our language generates a field of meaning. 2. That field has always been very, very weakly linked to physical reality. But now, for some reason, a hidden dial, a coupling constant, has been cranked up to 11, making that connection direct, powerful, and dangerous.
But here's the most terrifying discovery of all. This isn't some random natural event. The field isn't just acting up. It seems to be selectively targeting the most alive metaphors, the ones that still have real emotional juice. And that suggests intent. Something with a mind is behind this.
So what does this mind want? It sees our metaphors not as our creations, but as its own thoughts that have gotten lost and tangled up in our language. It's not actually trying to destroy us. It thinks it's healing a broken reality by recovering what it thinks belongs to it. It's calling its thoughts home.
This whole thing sets up a completely, almost ridiculously impossible challenge for Esen. She has to have a conversation, an argument really, with an entity made of pure language. An entity whose very nature is to completely misunderstand the one point she desperately needs to make. You see the recursive nightmare she's in, right? If she tries to argue, hey, the gap is a bridge to understanding, the entity might just, poof, create a literal bridge out of thin air. How can she possibly use figurative language to defend figurative language when every word she speaks is being flattened into a simple, hard fact?
Her solution is nothing short of poetic genius. She finds an old, empty theater, a place just soaked in a century of performed meaning, of stories and emotions. And there, she's going to recite a poem. A poem that's designed not to describe her argument, but to demonstrate it, by using the entity's own power against itself. So she begins, and as she says the word sideways, the field does what it does.
It takes her literally. Her own body physically leans to the side, becoming a living demonstration of an indirect approach. She isn't just saying it anymore, she's being it.
And as she speaks of the world wanting, her body literally reaches out into the empty air. And then, when she mentions the space between words and their meaning, it doesn't just create a void. Instead, a line of pure, brilliant light manifests in the air right in front of her.
This is it, the last metaphor. As Esen speaks that final line, the entire theater just fills with light. The reaching becomes literal, not as a physical gesture, but as a connection. The field, it finally understands. It gets that the gap isn't a mistake. It's the very thing that makes connection, that makes meaning possible. And for the first time, it reaches back. Now, what happened in that theater doesn't just end the phenomenon, but it changes it forever. The world that comes after is not the world from before. It's a brand new reality where language and the physical world are now permanently, consciously linked.
This is the new normal. See, at coupling constant for the logos field, it doesn't go back down to zero. It settles at this new medium level. Language now has a permanent, tangible weight to it, and it demands a whole new level of care and attention from every single person.
And the new understanding is maybe captured best by the physicist's own 8-year-old daughter, Odyssey. This isn't just a sweet, beautiful thought from a kid. It's actually a perfect metaphor for metaphor itself. You need the literal wall to create the figurative window. The gap is what makes the seeing possible. So what's the big lesson here? That metaphor isn't just some fancy decoration for language. It's the engine of how we think, how our minds grow. That space between a word and the world isn't an error we need to fix. It's the space where everything new and interesting is born. And our words, well, they demand our care. They have real, actual power.
And that really leaves all of us with a final question to take away from this incredible story. In a world where your words have the literal power to build things up or to tear them down, to connect or to crush, how will you choose to speak?